It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Unhappy Hour live sports radio show on thenewamericanmedia.com. Here is your host, Brian Engelman.
Good morning, America. Yeah, I do know it's not morning, but I always say good morning. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Brian, and this is the Unhappy Hour. This is where we talk about, well, we start thinking about the Indians, the tribe, the Buckeyes, the Browns. Trying to keep true to those Ohio roots. Of course, you got other stuff going on in the league. Some interesting stories. Have you heard the one about LeBron? Oh, this one's nice. An exclusive interview with a former steakhouse server who frequently waited on the NBA superstar. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. It's a pretty good one. Pretty good. Grady Sizemore update. We'll get to that. Ryan Braun, the MVP of the National League. Suspended for testing positive. Wait, he appealed and he won. When do you ever see appeals actually working? Ryan Braun, congratulations. He's winning a lot this year. He's doing a good job with life. Good for you, buddy. Good for you. I wonder what it's like having somebody that can produce offensively on your team. Remember the Indians of the 90s? There was not a single person you could pitch to on that roster. We had great pitching last year and just not so great hitting. A little bit of clutch hitting, which I liked. Man, that was disappointing. We're going to pick up our Skype line. I do believe we have Ben Weinbroer calling in. Ben, is that you, sir?
How are you, Brian? Good to hear from you.
Yeah, good to hear from you as well. Everybody, this is Ben, existential Ben, if you will. And yes. Ben is a regular contributor to the New American Media. Thank you for joining us again today. Ben, introduce yourself to everybody in a more specific way than I just did, and let's get into some sports, shall we?
Definitely. Good to be here. Yeah, originally from Cleveland, transplanted to Chicago. Been in Chicago now since 2007. I'm in a consumer products business, more specifically the alcohol beverage business. Highly engaged in politics, just like Brian.
Yep.
So yeah, exactly. So that's why always eager to get on the show. We actually do our own show too that follows Brian's on another frequency, so to speak, which is existential radio. So yeah, we love the dialogue, man. It's always good to connect.
Well, you know what? I think it's really cool. You sent one of our favorite tweets of the year saying something to the lines of, what we're doing over here inspired you to do your thing there. And we thought that was ridiculously cool because, us outspoken Midwesterners with Ohio roots living in big cities, people in New York and Los Angeles, they call everything else the flyover states. They don't think we exist. So we thought that was the tweet of the year, saying that we were in part an inspiration to kind of give you the nudge because you guys had been thinking about it. I guess. Can you tell the story about it, what you're doing and how it came together?
Yeah, you know what? It actually a good friend of mine, Mike, who co-hosts a show with me. We went to college together. We're graduates of Ohio University, and I can't tell you how many nights we've spent at my kitchen table over a case of beer, solving all the world's problems. So we thought, hey, why not put it on radio and see what happens?
No, that is fantastic.
Yeah, so we heard what you were doing and said, hey, that's kind of what we've, I think we could do it. And, we kind of looked into some of the options and it just made sense. And it's been a lot of fun, man. So I'm sure I know you love what you do with it and we're really enjoying it too. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and for everybody out there listening, thank you very much for listening. And on top of that, this is a multiple-faceted conversation, multifaceted. It's not just Ben rambling on, and it's not just me rambling on. I think part of the beauty of this is getting to vent and having the opportunity to engage in some challenging dialogue where you don't have to be on the same page about everything, although Ben and I seem to overlap quite a bit in a lot of issues, from sports to politics. Trust me, we'll find the areas that we disagree. But,
I'm sure.
But we have to be civil, and it's a challenge to challenge each other. And hey, did you see this story? What do you think about that? Hey, that's a great point. I know that the mainstream media tries to do it. I just don't trust them.
Right. Yeah, and you shouldn't. But I read an interesting post on a young lady's Facebook where she was actually kind of disavowing public discussion of politics. She kind of mentioned, I'm going to get off Facebook because it's getting real political or whatever. I didn't say anything, but it resonated with me because I thought to myself, doesn't that kind of, I mean, and I respect her view and her decision to kind of dip out from Facebook as a result, but not supporting healthy, respectful public debate, it undermines the very concept of democracy. It's so necessary. People are so PC these days, like, oh, I don't want to talk religion. I don't want to talk politics. Why not? Challenge ideas. You're going to learn something from the conversation. So it's just a smart thing to do to grow as a person and have a broader worldview.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, and it can get it can get overwhelming. Some of those
Sure.
people very close to me are like, "Come on, Brian, really? Do you have to?" I go to parties, and my wife will be like, "Brian, just listen, man. Just don't get into that while we're here." I'm like, "No, come on. When's the last time I've had an argument? I like discussions, and when if someone can't handle it, I remove myself from the conversation, and it almost always works. And I find there are people out there willing to talk if you don't snap, and bite their head off as soon as they say something you disagree with, because that's what we've been conditioned to believe. If you speak out, you're going to be the weed that gets lawn mowed. The lawnmower is going to come over you because you were standing up. And we're finding people are willing to open themselves up. We had presidential candidate Buddy Roemer, who's going to be running on a third-party ticket. He talked to us for about 45 minutes, and it's on our YouTube site right now. But people are willing to talk if we approach it the right way.
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's especially now because, well, obviously it's an election year, so that adds some gas on the fire, so to speak. But also, as the economy continues to deteriorate, as a lot of young people can't find jobs out of college, they're getting a lot more interested in the debate. And that's why you're seeing all these young people get involved in the process. A lot of them disenfranchised from '08 when Obama obviously didn't follow through on a lot of promises. So it's really interesting to see that it's becoming more and more prevalent to see people who are willing to speak their minds and have the discussion because it's now it matters to them, because it's hitting them in the pocketbook or it's hitting them in the professional world and the glass ceilings and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely becoming more prevalent to have the conversation and it's engage people.
Well, you're talking about the economy as things continue to get bad. I'm picking up on a trend forecasting from you here. Let's talk about the economy. And by the way, for everybody out there listening, feel free to steer the conversation with a comment or question on Twitter. Follow us at American_media_. We'll get back to sports. But you know what? It's my show. And I'm not going to be confined by what my sponsors need me to do because this is what I do. I blur the lines, and we can talk about spirituality mixed in with politics. Oh, and by the way, did you hear Grady Sizemore got hurt again? We'll get to that. We'll get to all of that, I swear. But, we don't know how long we have Ben on the phone, and while he's here, let's do the scatter shot as we're feeling it. But what I want to do is get to where do you think the economy is at right now? What do you think has really undermined it? I know that you got subprime housing, you got NAFTA, you have the Federal Reserve and the devaluation of the money, you have oil scarcity and potential wars ramping up in Iran, 100 things. But do you forecast the economy to head in a downward direction? Because the mainstream media during this election season is trying to say everything's getting better, Stop asking questions. Go back to sleep.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there. It's a confluence of forces. Obviously, it's not one particular thing, but rather an orchestrated number of things all occurring in unison. But in terms of trends and looking ahead, obviously keeping a real close eye on what's going on in Greece, and that's one of the things we're going to talk about in our show tonight. We're going to try to break that down to help people understand what the hell is going on in Greece. But watching that and understanding what got Greece there, it's not unlike what got us to where we were in 2008 when we went to the bailouts because of the toxic assets and the subprime piece. But, being an election year, you kind of touched on it, Brian. Barack Obama, as an incumbent president, has a unique opportunity to manipulate the markets. And you're seeing the Dow close today at the highest levels it has since, June of 2008, I think they said, or June of 2009. I'm not sure what year it was, but an astonishing number. So, how is that possible with the cost of oil well over $100 a barrel? How is that possible with real unemployment over 20% in the United States? How is that possible with our GDP year after year on a continuous decline, yet our stock market's going up? It's fake money. So, and that's, I guess, to put it in real simple, plain terms. But, in terms of forecasting, I think if you're trying to hedge your bet a little bit. I'm one of those guys who says, hey, look at the commodities, look at the resource companies, look at gold, look at silver, and protect yourself a little bit on that end, because I tell you, the Dow closing that high in such a poor economy to me just stinks.
Absolutely. I think you're onto something. We're talking live with Ben Weinbroer, regular contributor for both sports, politics, and anything else we ever feel like talking about. You know, I'm a hedge your bets kind of guy myself. We recently had the opportunity to borrow against our retirement fund and pay off all of the credit cards that accumulated for 3 degrees between my wife and I. You know, we wanted to get out from underneath that debt. Now we basically became the first bank of us. Not the U.S., of us, and we have to pay ourselves back with interest. It was a fantastic opportunity that we had, but we also hedged our bets with a little bit of silver. But, you know, we're not going 100% into anything. I think that's foolish. But talk about why you think going into commodities, things that come out of the ground, the natural resource blend that I switched into in my IRA, anything that comes from the ground, whether that's a tree, whether that's oil, whether that's gold or silver. Talk about that for a minute.
Well, it's a range of reasons. Particular to gold and silver, obviously, they've never reached a point where they've been valued at $0. Obviously, so it's real currency. It's what backs all the fiat currencies of the world. It's what originally backed the U.S. dollar until 1971. So it has a foundation, and it doesn't take a fool to look at the markets now and see gold well over 1750. I think it's up to 1780. I think it came down to 1775 today, but. You know, hell, when I was a young man and in high school going to college, my old man was stockpiling gold at $250 an ounce, you know, and it doesn't, you know, again, look at the trajectories from the economy from that point, and you can see why gold is a smart bet against the economy. If you're betting on gold and silver, you're betting kind of against the economy. But with respect to the resources, oil, some of the mining companies and things like that, the other piece to it is that they're finite resources. However, there is this emerging talk of oil shale in the United States, and the fact that there's maybe centuries of crude underneath the Dakotas in the Midwest of the United States. We saw it enter the news with the fracking that happened in Ohio, actually caused some earthquakes. So there's an environmental debate going on. But that could be a game changer if, in fact, we don't have the kind of dependency we thought we did. However, it is still a dangerous road to continue down this antiquated technology of internal combustion engines. But it is paying a lot of people and making a lot of people money, so I don't see us getting away from it anytime soon.
Well, you mentioned a little bit ago that 1973, I believe, was the year that we went off the gold standard. Can you discuss that in a couple of bullet points?
Yeah, I mean, it happened under Richard Nixon, right?
Absolutely.
It was something. Yeah, so it was basically a decision to go to a Federal Reserve. So obviously an external third party clearinghouse, essentially, that was going. It's actually more of a technocracy, if anything. If you look at what again, we'll talk Greece maybe later on, but here's a group that's not accountable to any voters, yet they're manipulating the markets, they're manipulating the interest rates. They're a bunch of economists and bankers, and anyway, I'll go off on another tangent on that some other time. But anyway, getting off the gold standard was sold to the American public as protection against inflation. We're about to experience tremendous inflation, in my opinion, and kind of undermine the whole reason why we established the Federal Reserve. So,
okay, well, that's a good place to jump into the next question. What is the Federal Reserve that started in 1913? Give somebody an overview of that.
Sure. Well, the Federal Reserve, again, is it's a group of bankers, economists. It's again, their idea is to protect. Not only to protect against inflation, but also protect price stability. It's kind of the whole concept of where futures markets came. So that, if you got to buy a bag of rice today and your business is built on buying rice, you want to be able to know that if the price of rice goes all of a sudden to $600 a bushel or whatever, you want to have some protection against that. So that's where the whole futures markets came from, partly kind of designed, blueprinted by the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve had very benevolent in my opinion.
You think the cause was it stemmed from a benevolent seed? That's a bit of a new one.
I do. I think that was. I don't think that was the ultimate intention. I think that's how it was sold to the American public. I think the ultimate intention was obviously to transfer wealth. If you look at what Roosevelt did in the 30s with the very first currency devaluation, when he took in all the gold and basically bought it at $20 an ounce off the American public, and then turned around and sold U.S. government bonds against it at $35 an ounce, basically devaluing the currency by almost 40%. I think that the actual intentions of the Federal Reserve weren't the best intentions, but certainly the way it was positioned to the American public was that it was going to benefit the consumer.
Has it benefited the consumer?
No, I think clearly not. I think clearly not. If you look at the buying power of a dollar today and index it against something like gold or a real currency, it's performed exceptionally poorly. So certainly, if you look at the trajectories, it hasn't followed through on its whole mission.
Now, do you feel as though John King in his third presidential debate with CNN, do you think he adequately addressed the issue of inflation by not mentioning it once?
Yeah, those, I get a kick out of those debates, and I catch your tweets too, and I enjoy those during the debates. It's amazing what's going on. I watched the debate in Arizona. What was that, on Wednesday night? Yeah. And I tell you what, the fact that they spent 25 minutes on whether or not contraception was a good idea. Again, it's smokescreen. It's, the mainstream media drawing attention to ancillary issues that really don't make a difference, that really aren't, close to people's hearts and minds. The crowd reaction said it all. I mean, they booed the hell out of him.
That was great. And
yeah.
I thought Ron Paul was absolutely stealing the show. I know you caught the tweets. Did you get to watch a lot of the debate? Because it seemed like Ron Paul fired out of a cannon, calling Rick Santorum fake and getting challenged on it and saying, "Yes, Rick, I called you fake because you are fake." And whatever, you can pick apart whether that was factually accurate, a little over the line, but I mean, he seems like the crusty old man in the room. You might not. I don't know. He might not be your best friend, but you think he's at least being honest as he sees it. The other guys seem like they've battle-tested certain keywords and phrases and lines, and they're giving us what they think we want to hear. Do you see where I'm getting the difference?
Oh, yeah. It's all about authenticity. I mean, Ron Paul has an authenticity that none of the other guys have. He's got an integrity that kind of comes through in the way he carries himself, the way he speaks. But yeah, we've seen two sides of Ron Paul in these debates. We've seen a very kind of a more of an not nearly as aggressive, sometimes not even really articulating that well, but certainly making great points and holding great positions. We've seen a more of a timid Ron Paul, but man, we've also seen this fired up. I won't call him angry, but certainly more aggressive Ron Paul that, man, I really enjoy watching those debates.
Well, now a lot of people are saying that they're saying they started whispering 2 weeks ago. Now they're actually saying it all over talk radio, on the national networks, both sides, MSNBC, Fox, and, of course, conservative talk radio.
Sure.
We're starting to hear about some sort of alliance with Mitt Romney and Ron Paul. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, don't buy it. Don't buy it at all. That is, first of all, anybody who's followed Ron Paul's career and his politics and they understand his philosophies know that would simply undermine everything that he stands for. To me, it's some maneuvering by the Romney campaign to try to take some votes from the Paul campaign to sway him a little bit, to insinuate that, hey, he's favorable to Ron Paul. Maybe he'll give Ron Paul a favorable position in the administration, whether it's VP, whether it's anything. To me, it's a ploy from the Romney campaign. I'm not personally buying into it. Obviously, the mainstream media is going to buy into it because they've been instructed to buy into it, and they've got a horse in this race. So, yeah, in my view, it's propaganda. Take it with a grain of salt.
Okay, we'll hit on a couple of other issues, and then we'll move into sports, and then we can obviously wander back wherever we feel like. By the way, if you're listening, we have Ben Weinbroer. We're just going to go ahead and skip commercials and just go as long as is comfortable and as long as makes sense here. We can always catch up later. Basically, I wanted to hit you with a couple scattershot questions. What would you want your ideal candidate to say? Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna play a little game here. I haven't really thought this through, but bear with me.
Sure.
I don't know the name of the game, but we'll say Ben's perfect candidate. Okay?
Sure.
So I'm not saying whether it's Mitt Romney or Ron Paul or Newt Gingrich or Herman Cain's hat. By the way, that's my favorite Twitter account. Just Herman Cain's hat has a Twitter feed, and it's really snarky. Anyhow, so follow it if you can. But we're gonna play Ben's favorite candidate. Now I'm going to ask you the question, and I'm going to ask you to respond as if you were the candidate, and you would say exactly what you hoped your ideal candidate would say. Okay?
Sure.
Hello, Ben Weinbroer. Thank you for joining us today. I understand you want to run for president. If you're running for president, that means that you don't think our current president, Mr. Barack Obama, is worthy of a second term. Why do you feel the American public should not give him another chance?
Well, I could spend 2 hours giving you various reasons why, but the ones that really, in my view, because everyone has different politics, but everyone as Americans appreciate freedom because it's kind of what our country's been founded on. The NDAA bill, some of this legislation with the Extra Expatriation Act, these are just disgusting. The fact that he not only signed them, but the fact that he was actually complicit in adding some language into the legislation that singled out American citizens, and this man has actually gone ahead and he basically assassinated an American citizen a few months back before this was even law. After he said, "Hey, let's double back and make it legal now, so we can keep doing it." You know what? That was disgusting to me. That's one of, if I had to boil it down to one reason, that's one reason that I could not, absolutely cannot even look Barack Obama in the eyes.
All right, Ben, thank you for that question. This next question comes to us from me as well. This question was about the NDAA, so I'm going to skip it since you addressed my first question. It's interesting how we're on the same page here. Moving on to number 2. Would you discuss your position on the Patriot Act? Because George Bush passed this in his administration so many years ago. There was somebody who came in with change and hope and a lot of slogans and was outraged by stuff like the Patriot Act, and 3 years later has not done anything to reverse the Patriot Act. What is your personal stance on the Patriot Act, and how do you think the American public should respond to something like the Patriot Act?
Well, it's a real sensitive topic because it really ties closely to 9/11, and with 9/11, you have a whole nother discussion there as to what really happened, which I got to tell you, I don't even think I know. But what I can tell you is that some shady things were happening. You know, clearly what we've been told is not what happened. And the Patriot Act was a direct result of what happened in 9/11. So to me, you really got to take a hard look at that. Now, that's how I'm responding to you as a candidate. I don't even think you can say that. Unfortunately, we're at that point, at that place in our political world where challenging an idea like that is literally political suicide. So that's something that's a great question, because when we talk about what's going on with NDAA and SOPA and all these various police state initiatives, it all goes back to 9/11. And sometimes we got to step back and remember that. And we've never, and the whole irony is we don't even know what happened. That's the irony.
We are talking with presidential candidate Ben Weinbroer. Oh, this is theoretical presidential candidate, ideal candidate Ben Weinbroer. I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, why is gas so expensive, and what can we do to fix this?
Well, let's look at the economics of it. The price of oil continues to rise. However, U.S. demand is down, right? So global demand is what's driving the price of oil up. Now, we talked about the value of the American dollar diminishing against other currencies, particularly real currencies. If you're going to look at metals, but certainly even like the euro, other currencies, it's performing negatively. So you have a deflationary dollar, a devaluing dollar that's basically the reserve currency for the world. So the price of oil is based off a devaluing dollar. So clearly the cost of oil is going to continue to rise. So what you're seeing at the gas pumps and this increase in price is simply your dollar buying less. And not only your dollar buying less in the form of inflation, your dollar's buying less in the form of being devalued. So that's the problem. That's why I see gas where it is, because if you look at the supply and demand, it's hard to understand why the price is so high, considering the global driver for demand, the United States market, is actually on the downside of that trend.
Now, without trying to pitch and sell us a product, if you could speak to everybody in the world and recommend a couple things they can do to be prepared a little bit in case of a hyperinflation where the dollar is sharply devalued in currency almost overnight, what advice would you give to people, either in a physical way, a mental way, a spiritual way, or a long-term plan way? What would you say people might want to start thinking about these days? Because judging from our earlier conversation, it sounded like you felt our economy is extremely fragile, if not completely bogus. What are you currently doing, and what would you recommend other people do?
Well, you know what? First, I'll touch on the spiritual and mental thing. Family is everything, and part of what I want to segue into is, if things really happened and things really, really got bad, you know, right now you've got a lot of these major metropolitan urban centers in the United States. I think those could be dangerous places to be. So I would think about that a little bit. But in terms of things that you can do now to help prepare yourself, I mentioned a little bit earlier in our talk when I talked about certain positions in the market you can take that lend themselves to resources or commodities or metals. I think those are smart plays financially and hedges against inflation. But in terms of other things you can do, I mean, remember, if something happened to where our electrical grid failed, or the trucking community, the trucking industry, for whatever reason, froze up as a result, grocery stores in 3 days are going to be out of food and stuff like that. So I'm not advocating a prepper lifestyle, or although I will mention the show that's on Nat Geo. Check it out. It's fascinating. Some of these people are at the top of their prepping, but I don't think it's a bad idea to have some dry food on hand, at least, for a few weeks. But I think one other important thing, and it's what I'll finish with, and I'm not a violent guy. I don't advocate violence, but I don't think it's a bad idea to own a weapon, own a gun, know how to use it, own it legally, know how to operate it. I don't think that's a bad idea because, you can't depend. Look at what's going on in Detroit. Okay, if somebody breaks in your house and you call the cops, they might show up. That's documented. That's the truth. They're only open 16 hours a day right now in Detroit. The police take them. Yeah, so I don't think it's a bad idea to be able to protect yourself independent of what you would normally depend on in police and government.
Well, there's a quote that is paraphrased as, "Guns save lives and police clean up crime scenes."
Yeah, that's apropos.
This country was started as a meritocracy where you're supposed to take care of yourself. And yes, the role of government, the very limited role of government, was to kind of just enforce terms of contracts and just keep a little bit of law and order on hand. It's gone a very different direction now. But I wanted to mention, you talked about those extreme preppers on the National Geographic, the Nat Geo channel.
Yeah.
I just wanted to let you and the listeners know that we were approached to be a part of that program. And
no way. That's awesome.
Yeah, we might be on season 2. We were just trying to think about it and go, well, wait a minute. Part of prepping is not advertising. Hang on. Let me.
Yeah.
And they wrapped up the show, and so we're still in communications with them over in New York because I think the show's doing really well, and there'll be a season 2. But regarding the gun issue,
yeah,
it's number 2 on the list on the Bill of Rights. It's number 2. What is number 1? You get to say whatever you want and act however you want as long as you don't hurt other people. And number 2, if someone tries to stop you from saying what you want or doing what you want, if it doesn't affect other people, you have a recourse.
Yeah.
It's called "Leave Me Alone. This is your last warning."
Yeah.
Because if you ever reach a situation where it's either him or me, look, if I'm not the bad guy here, it's not going to be me. I'm not going to allow myself to be vulnerable. And I absolutely recommend we're actually going to start the New American Media. I forget what we're going to call it. We have a few different ideas, but it's going to be a day at the shooting range.
Yeah.
And we're going to bring everybody out, make sure everyone knows how to clean and field strip their firearms and know how to operate them and get a little bit because there's another quote, having a guitar doesn't make you a musician any more than having a gun makes you a marksman.
Right.
You still have to practice. You got to learn. And this isn't about being anything other than not comfortable, not safe. I guess prepared. Well, it's about being prepared. You don't want to be vulnerable because then you're at the mercy of any madman or fool that wants to give you grief. And any nitwit or moron that wants to take advantage of a situation. You have to be able to take care of yourself. We think this world is so... Nothing will ever bring America down. Nothing will ever destroy our infrastructure. Oh, things have always been this great, and they're always going to be this great. That is not the case, my friend. We have been living in very enchanted times, and there's a lot of people that are just starting to get the feeling that the other shoe is about to drop. They can't define, is this Maya 2012 related? Is it currency crash related? Is it commodities? Is it a global World War III? Is it some sort of terrorist? It's like there's just this gloom hanging over people right now. And you touched upon the electrical grid. Either respond to what I just said there about the firearms or explain a little bit more about the electrical grid failing.
Well, I support everything you said on the firearms. Actually, my co-host Mike, he actually just went through the processes here in Illinois to become registered. I'm carry and conceal in Ohio, so, and I have reciprocity here. But Mike actually did a great job of kind of explaining it. But the interesting piece to that is that the government's making it more and more difficult for you to legally own a gun. I mean, you got to jump through some hoops in some states to get a gun, and Illinois is certainly one of them. So that's discouraging, but that shouldn't stop you. So I support everything you said on the gun piece. The electrical grid piece, you know, and Brian, I'm not sure when you moved out to the West Coast, but I was in Ohio in 2003 when the great blackout, as they called it, happened.
We were, and I'll tell you exactly where we were. We were in Mexico. We went to climb the Mayan city in Chichen Itza, that pyramid, that temple where the serpent goes up and down with Quetzalcoatl and whatnot. But we were down in Mexico doing that type of thing near Cancun. And the grid went down. We were watching it on TV, and the whole what was it, from Ohio to New York? Everything went down. Yeah, I absolutely remember exactly where I was, and I moved out here in 2005. So about 7 years we've been here. Yeah,
so, you know, I remember that, and just trying to get your mind around the scope of it, and to think of that on, you know, to continue for even just a few days, what the impact would be. Because I think it was a couple of days that we didn't have power, but to think a week or 10 days or 2 weeks, things would get pretty hairy. So that happened. And from the explanation that I've heard, there was some rogue trees in Ohio that fell on some power lines and shorted them out and blew the whole system. I mean, come on, man. That they said some transformers blew the result, and that's what really triggered it. That sounds pretty fragile to me. So I don't think it's far-fetched to think that could not happen again, and maybe on a bigger scale.
All right, Ben, thank you very much, candidate Ben Weinbroer. We have stretched this as far as we can without jumping to a commercial. Do you want to hang tight for 3 minutes and come back and we'll get to some Cleveland Indians and some other sports?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man, I'll hang on and we'll talk a little Tribe, and then we'll get to some Ron Paul. We'll get some Ron Paul coming on here in about 30 minutes.
All right, perfect. We will sandwich this all together, and I will let you know, Ben, your line will be live. We are still tweaking some of the technology with our Skype line here, trying to mute it. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. You are listening to I guess it's a hybrid of the New American Media's Unhappy Hour mixed with Agree to Disagree. So this is Agree to be Happy Hour.
I like it.
We'll figure that out in the commercial break. We'll be right back, guys.
Thanks, Brian.
You were listening to the Unhappy Hour Sports Radio Show on the NewAmericanMedia.com.
Have you ever considered adopting a pet to be part of your family? Our animal companions can be just as close to us as our human companions. If you're considering adoption, please visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. Shelter pets make the best pets.
Agree to Disagree. Yeah, it's a radio show we have on thenewamericanmedia.com every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Join the show. What do we talk about? Politics, religion, and spirituality. Basically anything you're not supposed to talk about in a bar. You're not supposed to have these conversations inside of a bar, but we have them every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on thenewamericanmedia.com. Join the show, offer your opinion, and let's agree to disagree, but let's have a good conversation.
Follow thenewamericanmedia.com on Twitter at American_media_.
Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. Last year I had this idea. I wanted to start a website of my own, not just a presence on Twitter, a presence on Facebook, and have a thing. I wanted a website. I wanted a home base for all of the ideas and things I'm interested in. I wanted live radio. I wanted to communicate with the globe. I was tired of being spoon-fed dogma by corporate interests and just, here, believe this. I said, no, I think there's something underneath the surface, but I didn't know how to do it. So I contacted Ted Distel of DistelDesign.com. Ted walked us through the process of, okay, you want videos, you want to do quotes of the day, you want to have a spiritual section, you want to have a 1984 watch where government's intruding and private corporations are intruding into your privacy. Yeah, those are the things that I was interested in. Ted walked me through the process. We built thenewamericanmedia.com, and I encourage you to go online and take a look at our site. That's what he's capable of. Please, if you have an idea, go to disteldesign.com. That's DISTEL design.com. Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. You know, this housing crisis that we've been in for a few years now has really taken a toll on a lot of families. I know somebody you've worked with, somebody that you're related to, maybe even yourself. You might have gone through some sort of foreclosure, short sale, deed in lieu of foreclosure, or any other nonsense going on in the financial markets tied to housing. One of the things that is not talked about enough is the fact that a lot of people have to get rid of their homes right now and go into some sort of apartment-style living. And in that situation, many people can't bring their cat or dog, their friend, their companion, a member of their family. Imagine your dog, imagine your cat, dropped off at a shelter. Oh, it's a shelter. They'll be safe. No, the shelters just don't have the resources capable to take care of these animals, and thousands of them are put to death every single week. Please, if you have the opportunity, go become a foster parent at a shelter. Go to your local shelter, adopt a dog or cat. Trust me, a family out there is going to really appreciate the effort.
It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Unhappy Hour live sports radio show on thenewamericanmedia.com. Here is your host, Brian Engelman.
Hello. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening. Ben, thanks for sticking around. Have you ever listened to our entire catalog of commercials before?
You know what? I actually have, man. You know, when I first got familiar with the show, I'd be sitting here, working away. I'd have you on in the background. So yeah, I'd absolutely hear some of the stuff. I love what you're doing, man. I think it's a good message. The animal piece is smart. You're taking a page out of Bob Barker's book, man. It's tried and true, you know?
Well, I'll tell you what, not to bore everybody with the details, but the quick overview of the origin of that, since you bring it up.
Sure.
Moved into a condo we bought in 2006, a year and a half before the crash. Needless to say, we're in that situation. We're in an HOA where we have 25 buildings, 216 units, and about 40% of those have been in various stages of foreclosure over the past couple of years. It has just been a wreck. So when we first moved in, we noticed a lot of stray cats in the neighborhood. Nobody was doing anything about it. And the people that were doing things were getting traps and taking them to a shelter, and they just kill them at a shelter. So we went out, we found a TNR program, Trap, Neuter, Release, and we trapped 39, at least 30. We just stopped counting at 39. We trapped them. We took them up to Pasadena, a veterinarian clinic. Were able to spay and neuter these animals, and then they were re-released back into the community in a feral cat community. So basically all you did is you grabbed everything out there, you stopped them from multiplying, and you let them back out. And and because they're not multiplying, they keep other cats away because they're so territorial. So, it's an issue close to us. We've adopted and fostered a couple of animals over the years and got some animals placed into some good homes. And, people talk about, well, look, government has to be big because they're performing the role that charities aren't doing. Americans aren't reaching into their own pockets or looking into their own backyard to do something to make a difference. And I said, that's nonsense. We can all do something, and I could do a little bit more. So what I've been doing is kind of helping, and adopting and trying to get some of these animals placed into long-term care. And, while we're a growing internet radio concern, we have the opportunity to run our own commercials until we start selling the ad space, which, according to what's going on with the traffic on our Twitter and the traffic on the YouTube and the traffic on the radio show, everything's kind of moving in the right direction. But for now, I'll hold the place with a commercial of my choosing, not just pushing a product or another pill. So
yeah, it's the beauty of it. That's the beauty of what you're doing. It's and you keyed in on something. Everybody can do something, even if it's small. Everybody can do something, and it's important to, again, we talked about it earlier. I mean, not necessarily public debate, but inform yourself, learn about what's going on, have opinions, educate yourself. That's the biggest issue that I see out there is people are getting their news spoon-fed to them from MTV, and they've been getting it that way for 10, 15, 20 years in some cases. So educate yourself, learn about what's actually happening in the world. There is a world beyond reality TV and American Idol, and that's why I love the show. That's why I think it's important to get ideas out there, because this is a unique medium. It's a unique platform that engages a younger, demographic of people who are more internet savvy, who are more digital savvy. So and those are the people who are going to be the influencers moving forward. So it's a great way to reach them.
Well, we're talking live with Ben Weinbroer. Ben, take another chance to reset this for everyone. Let people know about your site, your radio station, what you guys are doing, what your mission statement is, and how they can find you.
Sure. Anybody can find me on Twitter at existential, which is EXIS10TIAL. So the word existential with the numeral 10 in the middle. Our station is Existential Radio. So you can find us there on Twitter as well. We do very much the same thing that Brian's doing, slightly different format, I should say. We have call in, but it's the same message, man. We share a lot of the same politics, obviously, and as luck would have it, we actually share the same sports passion too with the Tribe, Browns, and Cavs. So yeah, we do pretty much the same thing. So anybody can find us there. We broadcast after Brian goes off the air. We start at 8:30. We're going to change it to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. So that's when we go live.
Hang on, wait, let's do the math. 8 p.m. Central, so that's 6 p.m. Pacific.
Right.
We're on the air until 5:30. You know, I think there's a way. How long is your show, Ben?
You know what? We've been doing our first show. We went 4.5 hours. Man.
Absolutely. We did the same thing for like 6 months. Absolutely. You just roll as long as you can.
We're going to try to keep it at 3 hours. It's a lot, but you know what, man? We never get through everything we want to get through. And basically the way we format it, Mike and I, we basically run through the headlines, the week's headlines. And then from there, you know, it's open phones and let's talk it through. You know, what's going on out there.
Well, it is pretty interesting because I was just listening to, I think it was Hugh Hewitt. I don't know if you get him out in Chicago. He's a talk radio guy. He's a Cleveland guy as well, Hugh Hewitt. I've been seeing him on Fox, and he's been doing some punditry. But he's a good radio host. He's deeply political. He's good. He's sharp. But he was talking about the drive time demographics, how people listen for an average of 15 to 20 minutes on their commute.
Yeah.
Out here in L.A. and in Chicago, that can be an hour if you're in the wrong spot. But, it can be 3 hours if you're in the wrong spot. But anyhow,
Right.
It's interesting that our shows are going to be backed up to each other. Do you go nightly, or do you just go once a week like us?
We're just going once a week like you guys. You know, we're thinking about, you know, and again, it's all just, you know, getting off the ground, you know, just making decisions as we go. But, you know, there's ideas about maybe getting some other people involved and doing some other types of topics on other nights. But for the most part, we just, you know, we want to focus on politics right now, being an election year. We do talk sports from time to time. But, yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it, man.
Well, you know that you're our Midwest brother over there holding down the common sense component of the Midwestern ideals and how you're raised. So, you know,
Sure.
the thing we've always said with the new American media is anybody with a camera is the new American media. You know,
Right.
you want to go see a story, you want to see something for yourself. I had to go see Occupy LA. I didn't want to hear what Fox was telling me. Yes, I'm sure there were dirty, uninformed hippies. Yes, I met some dirty, uninformed hippies, okay? But I also met people that were cautioning about the Federal Reserve, cautioning about corporatism, cautioning about the fascism of the blending of corporations and government, warning about inflation, warning about a one-world currency, warning. You know, I found quite a few rational people there making quite a few rational points, and I said, well, wait a minute. You know, MSNBC was telling me that the Tea Party were evil. Okay, I never really saw the evidence anywhere throughout the entire country. I saw plenty of it with Occupy, and then Fox was telling me they were all evil. But I don't think that's true. I think there's a lot of overlap between the Occupy and Tea Party movements. So I know we said we were going to go into sports, but what the hell, man? Let's just go. Let's roll with this.
Yeah, sure.
Where do you see the overlap in between the Occupy and the Tea Party movements, and where do you see them veering off into different directions? Because people it seems like they're ramping up for another round of this summer.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of tough because, you know, the one thing that I'm critical of Occupy is that they don't have any form of leadership and any form of, you know, they can't boil it down to a bumper sticker, you know, or a message. It's kind of loosely affiliated. I like what they're doing in that they're standing up, they're protesting, they're making it known that they're not happy with the status quo. I think where they share the same ideals as Tea Party is, hey, civil liberties, man, leave us alone. Why is the government managing every aspect of our lives? Secondly, smaller government, you know. But where they differ is a lot of the Tea Partiers are into the smaller government, more conservative type of view, whereas some of the Occupy guys are a little bit more liberal in that sense, and they want some more government handouts. That's certainly not the entire group, but I think that's where they start to kind of, you know, diverge. But, you know, I say the same thing about the anonymous group, the internet group, because, again, they're ripe for being hijacked. You know, you could do anything on the internet and say, it was anonymous that did it. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, the government could do something and say, oh, the anonymous group claimed responsibility for this. You know, so unless
I think they call that a false flag incident, I believe.
That's absolutely right, a false flag, and that's why I am sometimes skeptical of news stories where I hear them included, because again, they don't have a visible, coherent leadership that is accountable to things like that. So that's problematic. But I do like the core message.
Well, let's talk about Iran, because people are warning. But what is this? The Strait of Hormuz, and you got warships and carriers going over there. I forget the exact number of how many bases we have, basically completely surrounding Iran. And it seems like there's a contingent in the U.S. government and in some of the populace that just really wants to attack Iran right now. But this is an administration that refused to support the people 2 years ago in an uprising, when the people who are being tired of being ruled the way that, I don't know, people in Europe were, with a king and a church that were really beating down on people. That's why they fled to America, to just get a little bit of liberty and freedom, you know, where they can think what they want and act how they want, just don't hurt somebody else in the process. I'm confused with Iran. It's a very complex issue, so I'm wondering what your take on Iran is.
Well, what you're being told right now through the mainstream media is that you should be very afraid of Iran. They are going to nuke cities in the United States. They want you to think that Iran has some capability, in which, let's be clear, they do not have, that they have some capability to actually attack the continental United States. We are crucifying Iran right now for something that we think that they might have, which all the evidence suggests that they don't have. But if they do in fact have it, we're upset about what they might do with it. You know, like, how ridiculous is that for a pretext for a war? You know, people are going to die over this. So the Iranian piece it's really it's completely fabricated. It's theater war. Now, you talk about false flag. You know, obviously there's a high, I don't want to say probability, but there's an environment that's ripe for something to happen that could be easily pinned on Iran as a pretext to go to war. But the other issue is you've got Syria that's in the picture, that's tied closely with Iran. But more importantly, you've got China and Russia behind these two countries. So we need to be very careful about not only how we engage Iran and Syria as well, because there's a lot of talk about a troop buildup into Syria as U.S., NATO-led type invasion. And then you have Israel that could preemptively attack Iran, because Israel really is a little bit more vulnerable than we are with the Iranian situation. So we need to be able to manage that. And right now it seems there's some conflict between Netanyahu and Obama as to how to handle that. So things are shaping up pretty bad in Iran. Right now it's a powder keg, and boy, a spark could really set some things off.
And, you know, I would like to play devil's advocate and not to advocate the position, but let's throw this question out there and see what your reaction to this is. Sure. Some people would say, well, we get the whole concept of not wanting to go into a preemptive war. Like, we've really set a dangerous precedent for self-defense. It's hard to claim self-defense when you're the one doing the punching.
Right.
But, however, if you're a convicted felon, when you get out, you can't vote. And you can't purchase a firearm either, because you've been deemed a little too dangerous, a little too wacky, a little too unstable. Where, look, I think society has come together and said, I'm sorry, man, you have lost your privileges. Your rights and privileges have been revoked because you done screwed up. And some people are saying the vitriol and the rhetoric coming out of Ahmadinejad over in Iran, I mean, he's openly calling for genocide, and that was the same thing that Hitler was doing prior to him actually doing the crazy things he said he wanted to do when people wanted to ignore him. What would your reaction be to that?
Well, you know, to be honest with you, I haven't seen any of his claims for genocide. I haven't seen any of this, but what I can say is this, you know, he'd been characterized as saying that he wanted to wipe Israel off the map.
I think the phrase "stinking corpse" of Israel removed from the map. And, you know, once again, either Israel is a sovereign nation or it's America's 51st state. Can we just say what it is already? Because I'm getting a little confused myself. But anyhow, I think it was stinking corpse of Israel off the map, something like that.
It was more like Hulk Hogan pre-fight interview type stuff than it was, actual politics or legitimate threats. If you want to solve this issue in Iran, I don't know if you're familiar with this substance called thorium.
Nope.
Read a little bit about thorium. It's a radioactive material that can fuel civilian nuclear power. It's not enriched enough, like uranium can be, to produce weapons. This solves the uranium problem. Iran has actually pursued this as a potential solution. It's not being viewed as a solution from the West. Read about that and let me know what you think about it. I just started reading about it this week. I'm pretty amazed at what I'm reading because it sounds to me that this is a solution to the problem. Now, again, I'm saying this after only exposing myself to the information the last week, but it sounds like something worth looking into, that's for sure. And then secondly, diplomacy. And then after that, maybe war.
Okay, and then what is that? Thorium?
Yeah, thorium, just like it sounds phonetically. Thorium.
Gotcha. We are talking live with Ben Weinbroer. Okay, let's pause on this for just a moment because that was some heavy stuff. Let's get to some of the distraction. By the way, have you seen the fans' response yelling at the Cleveland Browns stadium? "You are a factory of sadness." Have you seen that video?
Yeah. The videos are great. I've seen some of the viral stuff, and I think it's the same guy who did the Cleveland tourism videos, which, even as a Clevelander, I thought it was funny, but boy, it's,
that was the one where it says, "Who the blank still uses a cell phone or a payphone?" A payphone. Yeah. Yeah,
so it's like you watch those, and as a Clevelander, you don't know whether to laugh or cry, really. But
you do both, man. You do both, and then you have some wine, you have some Jack Daniels, you sit in a quiet room, and you just you watch the glory days of Albert Bell hitting walk-off bombs, and when you thought you were going to win multiple championships, and you just let it go. But my point in bringing that up was to say, now let's go away from Iran and all this nonsense to what is supposed to be, in the immortal words of that dude. What's that guy's name again from the video?
I want to say it's Mike. Is it Mike Polk?
Yep, thank you, Mike Polk. In the immortal words of Mike Polk, I know that there are many more important things in the world than sports, but you are supposed to be a pleasant distraction from those things. So let's move to the pleasant distraction from the more important things for a minute. And I want to ask, have you heard the LeBron James story?
Let me ask you, which one? Is it the story about him potentially coming back to Cleveland?
No. Fine, start there. Just give us your quick response to that.
I just think I just don't see it ever happening. I mean, the rift between he and Gilbert seems so deep. I just could never see that happening again. But which story were you talking about?
Okay, this is an exclusive interview with a former XO Steakhouse server who frequently waited on the NBA superstar.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay, so I'm going to try to sum this up for you. The waitress said LeBron liked me because I didn't put up with his crap. She also told us that LeBron liked to drink apple martinis. The apple-tinis is what LeBron would sit there and sip on, which, okay, whatever. I'm a bartender myself, and fine. So he's sipping apple-tinis. But here's where it gets real interesting. He would ask them... he would ask the servers to have his steak cooked well done, by the way. Now, we're painting a picture of the psychology of the man that kept crumbling for 3 years in the playoffs with the best team, two-time MVP. Just the philosophy of a gentleman, a man-child, a two-time MVP, drinking apple-tinis, taking a perfectly good steak and ruining it by cooking it well done. Yeah. And then to ask the servers to cut the steak up for him in bite-sized pieces before they would bring it out.
That's hilarious. I actually got an exclusive for you too, Brian.
Yeah.
As you know, as I mentioned earlier, I'm in the alcohol beverage business. And when I was living back in Ohio, I was in the same business. And I used to sell a particular brand of amaretto, okay, among a lot of other things. But one of our brands was a brand of amaretto.
Now, might that be Di Serrano? Anyway, we won't get into that.
Yeah, it just happened to be that. So I had the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with LeBron. And at the time, it was a nightclub called The View. I don't even know if it's still there, but it was on Prospect. And, LeBron was doing this party. It was some kind of charity event. And the thing that LeBron was drinking that night and that he couldn't get enough of that I thought was hilarious, he was drinking amaretto sours, man. He thought that was just the best stuff in the world. And he was just blasting amaretto sours. So Appletini's, amaretto sours. I mean, this guy's got some champagne taste.
Well done steak cut into bite-sized pieces while he and as the king goes to Dwayne Wade's house into his kingdom to try to win his championship. I get, this is a man that is just not really seeming like a man. Obviously I would stand next to him as 6'8", 6'9", however tall the gentleman is.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, well-cooked steak, bite-sized pieces, amaretto sours, Appletini, choking in the playoffs at least 2 out of the last 3 years in Cleveland, then quasi-blaming it on Cleveland, breaking up with us on national TV, and then taking his talents elsewhere. This was very interesting to me because it kind of paints the picture of the soul of the man.
Yeah. And you know what? I actually feel bad for LeBron. I do.
Hang on. Wait. I'm gonna need you to repeat that. Someone was sneezing in the studio here. I thought you almost said you feel bad for LeBron. I'm sorry. Can we reset that, please?
No, I do. I feel bad for LeBron in that, this is a guy who had it all and just threw it all away. Like, from a branding standpoint, this is a guy who had a pristine image. It was so highly marketable. Everybody liked him. He was the good guy. Everybody wanted to see him win. He was an underdog, played for an underdog team, hometown guy. And from a marketing standpoint, he made it very clear he wanted to be a billionaire. He wanted to be the first billionaire athlete there was.
Right.
So from a business decision standpoint, why would you take that brand and absolutely tarnish it? Why would you do that? That would be like Tom Brady getting a divorce and marrying
Roseanne Barr.
Yeah, exactly. So
Maxine Waters, Nancy Pelosi, maybe into a civil union with Ahmadinejad. I don't know, but something unexpected and what? What?
Yeah. So you just, he was you also put it into context. I know he's a giant guy. He's he's a kid at the time he's in Cleveland. So you got all these groups of people around him, obviously, that had their own self-interest ahead of his own, helping to make these decisions, like the whole production at ESPN, just bad stuff. LeBron really handled it as poorly as you could. I truly think he's remorseful for that. I think he would do it a lot differently. I don't think he'd ultimately not choose to go to Miami, but man, he was around some bad people. They're giving him some bad advice, and as a young kid who was just who was telling him no. This guy never had anybody tell him, hey, why don't you think about it this way, man? Maybe you're wrong.
One of those servers at that steakhouse used to wouldn't allow him his crap, wouldn't let him pull his crap on her, and that's why he liked her. And I've had friends like this. I've been in bands with a lot of different people outside of Bowling Green, playing all over the place, and I've been in bands. I've been close with some people in my life that kind of, they kind of have everything that they need, and they've kind of been pampered and spoiled, and they're kind of ridiculously talented. But when it came down to, let me just say this. I had a conversation with one of my friends yesterday, and he said, "You know what I look for in a friend?" Mm-hmm. He said, "I need to have a friend that will allow me to say the good and the bad, and will tell me the good and the bad. Not sit around and kiss my ass and not get too offended and have things blown out of proportion if they say something that hurts my pride or my ego. Like, a friend needs to be able to go into that danger zone and be like, dude, you're getting bad advice. LeBron, have you thought of this?" Or, you talk to your friend and it's like, come on, man, I know you're hearing a lot of cool things and sugar-coated candy canes and such in your ear, but, brother, that just ain't the truth. And I think you touched on something very important there. I don't know that LeBron ever had that from anyone in the Cavs organization, from coach to general manager to owner. They bent over backward for him, and they got burned.
Yeah, that whole concept that you're talking about between friends can really be embodied in the word accountability. Like, if you do something stupid, they're going to tell you, hey, man, you did something stupid, that LeBron wasn't accountable to anyone, and so that whole mindset was allowed to just run wild. And I think that's part of the reason why you saw him melt down in the playoffs mentally, and why you just saw a lack of discipline all around, not only in his life on the court as a professional basketball player, but also in his personal life.
Okay,
so,
go ahead, wrap that up. I'm sorry.
No, I'd say that's actually just the crux of the point. I think ultimately LeBron, again, if he could go back and do it all over, I'm sure he'd do it a whole lot different.
Yeah, maybe the same choice, but done a whole lot differently. We're talking with Ben Weinbroer. Ben, I do believe you have a 4:30 appointment. What is that, 6:30 your time? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That is correct.
Okay, how about this? We're going to let you rock and roll, go do that thing, and did you want to give us a buzz afterward?
Yeah. I'm going to reach out to you guys after. I'll recap you guys on my reconnaissance mission. And
Tell everybody, what are you going to recon? Where are you getting your info? What are you doing?
Well, I'm going to check out a Ron Paul interview. He's going to be on Kudlow Report. I want to check it out. I want to see his take on the Romney piece. I'm sure they're going to address it. So I'd love to check in with you and address it on the show. And I hope people can tune in later and hear us at Existential Radio, man. We're gonna run 3 hours strong, and we're gonna be touching on a lot of the same things you and I just talked about, Brian.
Perfect. All right. Well, then when we get back, maybe we can address the Miami Dolphins fan base wanting Peyton Manning to go play down there. And if you were the GM, would you go to get Peyton Manning or try to trade up to number 2 or number 1 and get someone like an RG3 or an Andrew Luck from Stanford? We want to talk.
I like RG3. I like RG3 a lot. I guess, how do you know what Washington's going to do? There's just so many variables to it. It's funny to me, actually, to watch the debate in Cleveland over the draft because there's just so much that goes on that you don't know.
It's our Super Bowl. It's our Super Bowl is the draft.
Yeah, and there's so many conversations that happen behind closed doors that you're not seeing in ESPN. So, as a fan, you almost have to just say, look, I don't have enough information to actually know what the hell's going on. So you got to let the pros make their money and make decisions, and they're tough decisions, but I'd love to see RG3 if we could. But we'll see. There's other teams in the mix, and boy, it's pretty hairy. But I did want to touch on one sports thing before I get off with you, and that's the Grady piece. And you mentioned it. Grady coming up lame, I guess a thrown out back or whatever it is. Man, I was really excited at the prospect of – I just thought it was the right thing to do for the organization and for Grady to find common ground and come back for another year. But, man, I'm taking –
It's a $5 million 1-year deal, incentive-laden, former All-Star. He strained his lower back. He's going to miss opening day. And it just it's another in a series of unfortunate – injuries that has sidelined one of our key players at a time where we desperately need on-base percentage, base runners, base-stealing threats, and runs being produced. It's just another. But you know what? The Indians fought really hard last year. We'll see where it goes. When we come back, we'll talk about Ryan Braun getting hammered and then getting released from his liabilities, and now he's the MVP. He's still the MVP. He got suspended and it got overturned. We can talk a little bit more about the Indians. We can talk more about the draft. Ben, go watch your Ron Paul interview and get back to us through Skype when you get a moment, sir.
I definitely will, Brian. Hey, one last thing. That's actually the Ryan Braun story is actually a really good parallel to our justice system. And because I actually read a great blog about this because, they're kind of undermining how it was handled, the sample and how it was handled, much like,
the process.
Yeah, so the due process piece is drawn into question. And are these athletes, do they deserve the same due process that we do as private citizens? That's an interesting talking point, too. But, Brian, always great connecting with you, brother. I'll be checking back in with you once I get some more info on Paul.
All right, perfect. Be our correspondent. We'll talk to you in a few, Ben.
You got it, brother. Thanks, Brian. See ya.
All right, that was Existential Ben, our good old buddy, old pal, Existential Ben. Yeah, check him out. Check out his radio show. We're kind of almost back-to-back, a half-hour downtime to grab some food. You know what? Check it out. You can, between our show and his show, you can get a lot of political chat, sports chat, a specific Indians, Cavs, Browns, and Buckeyes slant, but we wander off into different directions. So, yeah, we're thrilled that Ben is doing that because we were once inspired to start a radio station, about a year ago, and it's all roads have been leading to this point for a long time. So it's really nice to know that we've, by the way, let me just take this opportunity. We're way long for commercial, but that's the beauty of running your own station. You'll get to it when you get to it, okay? I'll get to my commercial when I get to my commercial. I'll talk politics instead of sports if I feel like it. If you guys want to change what I'm doing and suggest we go to a different place, you can send us a direct message on Twitter at American_media_. You can call us on Skype at TNAM Radio. TNAM, like the new American media, because the news always matters. TNAM Radio on Skype. I just wanted to thank our 56 subscribers on the New American Media YouTube channel. Thank you much. I want to thank everybody who clicked 7,921 times to view any number of 30 different videos that we have posted, and many more are on the way from the Conscious Life Expo 2012. If you're not sure what that is, check out some of our videos. More will be posted. We have stuff up there from the NAM convention, National Association of Music Merchants, new technology, about 90,000 people in Pasadena. It's a convention. Check out those videos. We've definitely had some people consistently clicking on last week's radio interview with 2012 independent presidential candidate Buddy Roemer, former Louisiana governor, and I believe it was 4-time congressman. I may have to double check that last part, but he served as a Republican and a Democrat during the 90s, 80s, 90s. And look, the beauty is I told Governor Roemer, I said, the hardest part for me here is not doing more research on you. The hardest part of being a radio host right now is not doing my research, because I'm trying to approach an interview with Buddy Roemer. I'm sure a lot of you guys listening don't know who Buddy Roemer is, because I didn't until I saw him on MSNBC and said, who's this guy? I heard him make a couple of nice points. I'm like, okay, those are good points. I don't really hear a lot of good points coming from MSNBC. Oh, okay, I do hear some good points coming from Maddow and the other folks. I hear a couple good points on every station, but not as many from that station. But I heard him on there, and we approached him. He said, Governor Roemer, I don't know who you are, and I'm a political junkie. Why aren't they letting you on the stage with the GOP debate? Okay. You have a track record. You have a resume. You've been a governor. You've been a congressman. You're not just a guy that ran a pizza joint. Sorry, Herman, I love you, but hey, until you imploded, I loved having you in the race. I loved having that common sense, just basic, normal actions, not so rehearsed. I liked that. But at the end of the day, you look at Governor Roemer's qualifications and you say, well, why can't he at least get on the stage and debate? And I still haven't got a good answer to that question. You had Huntsman drop out. You had Bachman drop out. Rick Perry drop out. Herman Cain drop out. Who else? Come on. Who else dropped out? Okay, well, that's all I can think of at this particular second. And it's like, all right, if these other people are saying no thanks, and this guy is saying me, pick me. All right, we'll pick him. Governor Buddy Roemer, I don't know much about him, but I know he seems to have a legitimate amount of common sense. Put him on stage and let him debate the other guys in the GOP. I want more perspectives. It seems like 3 of these guys are almost exactly the same establishment candidate. Then you have one guy that's just one of these things is not like the other. Congressman Ron Paul, rather, he's different than the other 3 candidates. I see a lot of big government in former House Speaker Newt Gingrich and Mitt Romney and Rick Santorum. And that's kind of what we had as a choice between McCain and Obama last time. More big government. Now, I don't think that's been working so well, folks. So if there's this guy, Buddy Roemer, that's why we interviewed him last week. Go check it out. It's on youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. Or if you go to thenewamericanmedia.com, you can click on any of the embedded videos that are from us. We have a bunch of them up there. And just click on the bottom right. It says YouTube. It'll take you right to the channel, and you can scour. We have a Sublime with Rome and 311 concert review. We have a whole bunch of different stuff on there. And we just want to take the opportunity right now, like I was starting to say before I got so distracted there. We want to thank the 56 subscribers on our youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia channel. We want to thank the 7,921 views that we have received. Thank you so much. Sorry, that's 7,925. More people are watching as we speak. That's fantastic. We also want to take a moment to thank the 4,450, is it 50? Yep, 50 followers on Twitter. We're at American_media_. Thank you so much. The fact that you guys are paying attention to what we're doing, the fact that you're sending and tweeting the message of freedom and liberty, and of course the pleasant distraction from those things, sports. I love sports. I'm a very frustrated sports fan who grew up as a Cleveland sports fan. It has not been easy, my friends. Our teams always tease us and fail us. You can only do that so long before it starts to get pretty old. You get jaded. And that will actually be the topic of the book that I will be putting out. I'll tell you guys more about it once we can wrap up a little bit more of it and bring it closer to publishing date. But there's a psychological component that goes through 6 decades, probably spanning 3 or 4 generations of Ohio sports fans. That there's a psychology behind what that can do to people when you get really emotionally invested and let down repeatedly. And I'm not sure what America's problem is on the political front, but you have half the country that doesn't even vote. I mean, yeah, I talked to friends that gave up on sports and said, I just can't take it anymore. I can't go through this anymore. But to me, it seems like politics is way more important than just giving up. I mean, I told Governor Romer in our interview, 2012 independent presidential candidate, former governor of Louisiana, Buddy Romer, during last week's Agree to Disagree radio show, which you can find on our YouTube page, youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. We talked about a lot, and I was telling him that I was studying the Revolutionary War a lot. There's a few different versions on the History Channel. Different. One has Charles Kuralt. That's fantastic. I love that guy. In a platonic way. Kuralt is fun to listen to, but then they have like a new one. It almost sounds like they have like Seven Dust music playing in the background, and it's like this hip new American Revolution retelling. I mean, they have to update it every 2 decades because it does. Even though you're doing a period piece from the 1700s, it feels dated with Kuralt and the graphics and the... Anyhow, and I told Governor Romer, I've been really studying up on the American Revolution. I mean, these people, you think we have it hard now? Come on, America. 50% of you can't even figure out what's healthiest for our country and go out and vote. I mean, if you guys engaged yourselves, Plato said that indifference to public affairs is a sanction for being ruled by inferior men. Once again, I tend to paraphrase these, but I try to get them as close as I can recall. But if you don't care about what's going on, you're saying, please give me inferior people to make my most important decisions for me. And that's ridiculous. Come on, guys. We all got to man up, woman up. We got to look in the mirror for a minute here, because we're better than this. We're capable of more than this. And the revolution, I had this other conversation yesterday. A girl I recently met through another friend, and she was talking about traveling across the country and how it's. And I said, yeah, it's kind of like a rite of passage. I'm from Ohio, and I drove with my band 2,000 miles west to Los Angeles 7 years ago. And then I drove across the country again and proposed to my girlfriend, who is now my wife. Then I drove back home, then flew back, and then drove again across the country. Different times. Sometimes we stayed at Mandalay Bay on a honeymoon suite. And by the way, if you've never been to Vegas or if you haven't been to Mandalay, go upstairs onto the roof with that whole beach. They have a beach with a wave pool and everything. That's a cool pool, let me tell you. But I said, sometimes we've in this drive across the country, this rite of passage for an American that I've been fortunate enough to participate in. Sometimes you stay in a suite at Mandalay Bay for a wedding gift from some of your close friends and family. Or sometimes, like when I drove across the country with a ring in my car, sometimes you pull into a rest area in Utah or Nebraska or Iowa or Colorado up in the mountains in a really weird, strange place, and it's free. It is cold. This is October. You got the snow coming down. You got the rain. It's cold. So you pull into some shady rest area. You drain your bladder. You brush your teeth real quick. You look around, you try to make sure there aren't any creeps hanging out. You go back in your car, you run the heater for about 10 minutes on full blast, as much heat as you could possibly ask for. Heat up the car to combat all the cold. Climb into the back seat, turn on your own car alarm as you sleep in it. Climb into a sleeping bag with 3 sweatshirts on. And you hope that you've kind of covered up the windows of your car or your Blazer, your vehicle, enough so people can't see in, or who knows what would happen in some random rest area. Oh yeah, Brian, that's real difficult. You know what the settlers of this country did? The people that actually were in Conestoga wagons. How about the Trail of Tears? How about the internment of all the Japanese in World War II? How about the whole Native American culture? How about fighting the British in the Revolutionary War? I mean, these people in the Revolutionary War, a lot of them didn't even have shoes. And you just don't believe it, you know, and then you watch this history and they start talking about this, you know, and just you see the visual and you go, wait a minute, they didn't have shoes. And you knew that you knew it, but it didn't sink in. I mean, these people are not getting paid by a Congress that's not authorizing payment. They finally produce worthless Continentals. Then they print the hell out of them and hyper-inflate their own currency called the Continental. Wake up, America. We've been through this hyperinflation of paper currency before. That's why you stick to gold and silver, because you can't go to the Xerox machine and duplicate it. But these people cared so much about liberty and freedom. They cared so much. They took on the British crown, barefoot, winter after winter after winter. Unlimited treasure trove, unlimited battle chest of supplies and resources from the British. Global empire, those Brits. But we just had it. Our country, we were sick of it. You know what was happening? The police, the British regulars, the redcoats, if you will, but the regulars, they started searching people and looking in people's homes. Okay, police do that today, right? What do they need? A search warrant. Why do they need a search warrant? Because back in the Revolutionary days, the constables or police force or the regulars, however you specifically define the British military force that was policing the colonies, they would have a blank checkbook of pre-approved judge warrants. And they would just go, okay, we want to look in Stephen's place. He lives on the corner of First and Main, and we think that he's doing this. They would write this, and they would write their own search warrants. So you're supposed to have a delineation between the people who create the laws, the people who interpret the laws, the people who enforce the laws, because when there's one motivation, when there's one agenda behind all of it, there's no check and balance on that. And I've learned this being on the board of directors for a few different companies, a few different associations, a few different corporations. There are times when you're outvoted. There are times when the majority is wrong, but there's even more times when the majority's right. And even though I really had a strong idea about something, just hear him out. And they said that was one of Washington's greatest strengths, was he would hear out what the generals, the people he appointed to do these jobs. He wouldn't micromanage everything, which is one of the biggest knocks on Bill Clinton. They always said he was huge into micromanaging every component of everything. But he would listen to the advice of those people around him. You know, and that's what a check and balance is. It's when you have a king, it's one person, one rule. You have Saddam Hussein, you have a dictator, you have one person, you have one rule. Challenge it, you disappear. Okay. Now tell me what the NDAA is. Guys, there's no comfortable way for me to explain the NDAA other than I believe this was drafted by John McCain. In this bill, the entire territory of the United States is now deemed a battleground. Remember, George Bush was evil, and we're at this war for oil, and 9/11 conspiracy, and it's all for oil, and remember all these complaints we heard for, 7 years straight? And then all those complaints disappeared? Because their guy's in power now. Really? So, you have the guy that ran for president, and I don't think he really ran. I don't think he... Yes, I know he technically ran, but I didn't see any fire out of that guy to convince me that he really wanted that job. I still don't think he really wanted it, because he knew what was on its way. He saw the writing on the wall. He knew it was going to be a disaster. And I don't blame Mr. Obama for everything, but I certainly don't let him off the hook for everything. 3 years in, you determine, all right, does this coach need to be fired? Do we need to go in a different direction? But back to the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act, along with SOPA, along with the Patriot Act, along with rendition, along with PIPA, along with net neutrality, these things are dangerous, guys. Dangerous. People were raising the alarms back in the late 1700s, 1760s, 1770s, raising the alarm. Guys, if you let them do this, do you know what they're going to do next? Hang on a second. This is dangerous territory. You cannot have the police writing blanket search warrants. That's what the Patriot Act does, by the way, people. We'll get to that later. But the NDAA basically says all of America is a battleground. And the George Bush thing where it was like, oh, here's Guantanamo Bay, and these people are enemy combatants, or they're prisoners of war, or they're American citizens. Do they get a trial? Do they get a military tribunal? Check this out. American citizens can be rounded up without trial, detained without trial, without warrant, probable cause, detained, taken away to where? Some FEMA camp? Some facility designed to house a lot of people in case I don't know what? Emergency management, in case there's another hurricane or a tornado or something. It's to help. Okay. We have seen reports of some of these FEMA camps having barbed wire that face in as opposed to facing out of the big complex. That would mean like a prison to keep people inside as opposed to keeping them from getting inside. Okay. I haven't been to one of these facilities. Other people have. Did you see Governor Jesse Ventura? I believe his show Conspiracy Theory, where he obviously acknowledges some of these are conspiracy theories, and let's go take a look and see what we find. What do they find? But basically, it's not even anymore that you can... Is it a military tribunal? Do you face a jury of your peers? You can just be picked up and detained indefinitely, without cause, without proof, on an accusation. By who? I don't know. Who's calling the rules today? Bush? Obama? Next person? I don't know. Detained indefinitely throughout the conflict. What conflict? What are we in? We're in a war. With who? With terror. I'm sorry. Terror is a thing. It's a tool. Terrorism is a tool used in war. Well, we're in a war against that. Okay, so we're at war against a concept. Right. Okay. We're in war against a concept. So if someone's detained, kidnapped, it's kidnapping American citizens. So if you're kidnapped, you get held. When do you have your trial? Well, you don't have to have a trial. I'm sorry. Yeah, you do. The Bill of Rights, guys. Like a speedy trial, the right to a speedy trial. That's something in a Constitution. Well, that doesn't count. You get into all the reasons why. Anyhow, so okay. Well, at least. Maybe in case of some sort of emergency, and I don't buy this whole emergency line anymore. Franklin said and warned, the man who would trade, well, now I'm going to paraphrase it, trade some of his liberty for some security will surely end up losing both. You never give away your liberty and your freedoms in the hopes that you can be temporarily protected from something, because you don't get those freedoms back. You never let go of those. So, okay, back to the thing. All right, so say you're detained and there's some temporary emergency, whatever, whoever's in charge deems an emergency. If it's not a false flag, something that's done intentionally to make it look covert and contrary to what it really was. I mean, hell, for 7 years I listened to Michael Moore and these other people say that 9/11 was an inside job. Michael Moore and the Democrats said 9/11 was perpetrated by George Bush so that we could go attack and steal oil. But then why is oil $4 or $5 a gallon? It's almost $6 in some places. Oh, but we can't talk about that anymore. Bush is gone. We don't talk about that. Okay, I'm really getting confused here, but let's move on. Okay, so there's an emergency that somebody deems as an emergency, and then you as an American citizen, without trial, without proof, without anything, can be detained, kidnapped by your own government, which work for you. So your employees can kidnap you. Because let's not forget, the government is our employee. They work for us. Mr. Barack Obama, he's my employee. He's your employee. You pay him. We've asked these people to work for us so we can work and hold down a job and raise our kids and live a life and read a couple good books and go to the park from time to time and watch some sports to distract ourselves. Okay, so you're saying I can be kidnapped because there's an emergency somewhere. All right, well then how do I get out of that? Well, for the duration of the conflict. What conflict? The war. The war against who? The war against terror. Terror is a tool. It's a thing. Okay, so when does the thing stop? Well, it never stops. Have you read 1984? George Orwell, 1984. Come on, people. 1984. Have you read the book? Didn't they warn us very specifically about this crap? The never-ending wars between, was it two or three major superpowers, and they're always changing alliances, but you're always in a perpetual state of war. You're just always at war, and then your enemy's your ally, then your ally's your enemy, but you're always at war. We were warned to not fall into this trap. So you could be detained forever because the war on terror never ends. Well, then how did you just kidnap me without proof, without trial? I mean, it's just kidnapping. That's not a legal system. That's not a military operation. That's an act of war. Kidnap? What was the whole Helen of Troy thing? That's what the NDAA is. This is the type of crap our government is doing. Did you hear the other story about the police covertly putting magnetic GPS tracking devices on vehicles without a warrant? I think that one just got overturned. But can you believe they're actually doing this stuff? Think about Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Google. Let's just think about all the data companies. That's all they are. It's just data companies. So wasn't Twitter sold to a foreign interest? Was it Saudi Arabia? Yeah, I don't have all my stories in front of me. Just bear with me. Do a fact check. Send me a Twitter message at American_media_. We can sort that out. But this all leaves me wondering who is poking us with a stick and why? What are they trying to get? I mean, the NDAA, the Patriot Act, SOPA, being able to shut down websites over. I mean, you can't limit free speech. You can't do that. That was the first, and they said in case things get out of control, you have a Second Amendment right to protect yourself. And there's all the attacks on the Second Amendment. There are a lot of people saying, a lot of people are very concerned about the future of our country. A lot of people are witnessing and finding a lot of similarities between what happened prior to 1772, 75, 76, late 1760s. They felt like they were being poked with pointy sticks. I don't get why. I don't get what the benefit to doing that could possibly be. But it's happening. Your freedom of speech is being threatened. Your freedom of religion. I'm not going to get into the stupid abortion issue. I'm not doing it. Contraception. Are you kidding me? We're $16 trillion in debt, and you want to talk to me about a rubber? A condom? Really? This is an issue, Mr. Moderator? $16 trillion with a T in debt. We can't pay that back. So what do? They print more money. That's what happened to the U.S. continental currency. Look it up. The continental. And they devalue it, so then you can purchase less. That's theft. That's taxation without representation. It's a covert act of theft. Add that to NDAA, kidnapping, trying to restrict your Second Amendment rights, your First Amendment rights to shut down your website and detain you as an enemy of the state. Say the Homeland Security Department saying Ron Paul supporters and constitutionalists and returning veterans are possible terrorists and need to be studied, spied on. I mean, guys and girls, I think every one of our Bill of Rights are being trampled. Every one of them. Obamacare. The 10th Amendment says if it's not in the Constitution, the states can do it. You cannot tell the states what to do on this. But it's this landmark legislation. Really. 2,700 pages that we've never read. Nancy Pelosi says, I can't wait until we pass it to find out what's in it. Are you kidding me? Henry Waxman in Congress. People are saying, read the bill, read the bill. He hires a speed reader to mock the American citizens who are saying, I smell a scam. Stop and read this. Right. But we're the potential threat to our country's greatness. Right. The people trying to stop the insanity. Right. We're the bad guys. Right. I don't buy it, guys. I don't buy it. I don't know what our answer is. I know what it's not. It's not more of the same. It's not more big government. It's not one currency. It's not erasing borders. It's not living in a prison planet, a police state, a damn spy camera everywhere you turn at a major intersection. Come on, man, this isn't a zoo. Is it? Or maybe it's a zoo. I got it. Maybe some extraterrestrials created us, and we're just a reality television show. And they tune in and watch us all the time. Or we're like a game of chess to an extraterrestrial race living on another planet or a different dimension. That's probably what it is. We're just a reality show. And they pit us against each other, and they edit it to make it look like we're arguing, and they try to get us to blow up and punch each other. Iran, Iraq, Vietnam, Bay of Pigs, Strait of Hormuz. Was that the USS? What was that? The Constitution? The Lusitania? What was that one? Archduke Ferdinand? Pearl Harbor? I don't know. Maybe all this stuff just happened and everything, action, then the reaction, and there you go. Or maybe there's some big goofy plan, and maybe we're two football teams playing a game, and the coaches are pulling the strings on the sidelines, and we just keep playing. Yeah, we just keep playing along. That's probably that would make some sense, though. What if it seems like every important decision that we make is the wrong decision because the people making the decisions aren't people? That's it. There's probably robots inside of these politicians. They're not real people. They're just things. But those things actually created us but they're not the creator. They're just, and they're watching us on reality. Okay. Let's back away from science fiction world for a minute. By the way, that would be a good time for me to mention to you the Moon Saloon project we're working on. Details coming soon. You can check out a sketch or two. I think it's under original programming on thenewamericanmedia.com. But guys, I'm telling you, let me wrap this up here and take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back. I think Ben will be joining us again. We got a couple of sports stories. We want to get your thoughts. Send us a direct message on Twitter at American_media_. But I just want to say, when I talked with presidential candidate, former governor, Buddy Roemer, I said, I've been studying the American Revolution, and you know, between the Tea Party and Occupy, and people know that something is wrong. You have the theft of the subprime housing crisis. You have the theft through inflation and the decreased purchasing power of the dollar. We're being robbed. We're in all these global conflicts, but our southern border's open. Are you kidding me? I've been a promoter. The first thing you have to do is clear your club if there are people in there, and you ask them to wait in line, show their identification, and come into the club. You'll have your liquor license removed if you don't make sure people are 21. That's the job you try to do. You're telling me this country, the greatest country, the last great hope, the shining city on the hill, you're telling me we can't put a bouncer at our door? No, let's sue Arizona for trying to put a bouncer at the door and make sure that people aren't coming in and causing problems. Make sure people coming in are of legal age. Make sure they don't have a criminal record. Make sure they're not carrying weapons. No. Let's sue Arizona. You have got to be kidding me. I mean, I am telling you, our priorities are so out of whack. We're policing how many countries across the globe, but we're not even taking care of our returning veterans. We're not rebuilding Detroit and New Orleans as quickly as we need to. Joplin, Missouri. I mean, we have homeless veterans who have served our country, done the bravest thing I could think of. Something I did not choose to do. I chose to not do that. And I have family members and friends that are in the military, and I thank them now like I always do for their service. Because it's hard. But you guys are heroes. And I want you guys to take a look at the Oath Keepers. If you haven't looked at the Oath Keepers, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. Until we get to Ben, I believe Ben's going to give us a call back after this interview. I'm going to read you a little bit about who the Oath Keepers are, because I intend to get them on the horn. We're going to do some extensive interviews. The Oath Keepers. We have a video with a representative from the Oath Keepers on youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. You can check it out there. I'm gonna get their mission statement. I'm gonna read some of that to you when we come back. It's gonna tie in with what Buddy Roemer and I were talking about last week about the similarities between 1770s, the late 1760s and the 1770s. You look at Occupy movement. You look at the Tea Party. People smell a rat. People think the system is rigged. People think you have pushed us and pushed us and pushed us and pushed us. What happens when you finally back an animal into the corner? I do this show and talk to you so that we can come up with a better solution. I don't want to see bloody footprints, bloody barefoot footprints, fighting a superpower. I think we can do better than this. I don't think we need to be pawns in somebody else's game of chess. I think we can do better. I'm trying to alert as many people as possible, to wake some people up, to shake them. Mentally shake them, I think. I smell a rat. I'm concerned for the future of my country. I believe in a supreme being and a future existence. I think good is going to win. But ladies and gentlemen, it is time to speak. That is our most potent and powerful tool that's at our disposal, is to speak. And that's why we speak to you every week, at a minimum every Friday, sometimes even more, on the New American Media. And I thank you guys for being a part of this. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back. I don't even know if we're in sports or politics anymore. I don't care. I'll mix them all up. We'll be right back.
You were listening to The Unhappy Hour Sports Radio Show on thenewamericanmedia.com.
Have you ever considered adopting a pet to be part of your family? Our animal companions can be just as close to us as our human companions. If you're considering adoption, please visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. Shelter pets make the best pets.
Agree to disagree. Yeah, it's a radio show we have on thenewamericanmedia.com every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Join the show. What do we talk about? Politics, religion, and spirituality. Basically anything you're not supposed to talk about in a bar. You're not supposed to have these conversations inside of a bar, but we have them every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on thenewamericanmedia.com. Join the show, offer your opinion, and let's agree to disagree, but let's have a good conversation.
Follow thenewamericanmedia.com on Twitter at American_media_.
Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. Last year I had this idea. I wanted to start a website of my own, not just something, a presence on Twitter, a presence on Facebook, and have a thing. I wanted a website. I wanted a home base for all of the ideas and things I'm interested in. I wanted live radio. I wanted to communicate with the globe. I was tired of being spoon-fed dogma by corporate interests and just, here, believe this, believe this. I said, no, I think there's something underneath the surface, but I didn't know how to do it. So I contacted Ted Distel of disteldesign.com. Ted walked us through the process of, okay, you want videos, you want to do quotes of the day, you want to have a spiritual section, you want to have a 1984 watch where government's intruding and private corporations are intruding into your privacy. Yeah, those are the things that I was interested in. Ted walked me through the process. We built thenewamericanmedia.com, and I encourage you to go online and take a look at our site. That's what he's capable of. Please, if you have an idea, go to disteldesign.com. That's DISTEL design.com. Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. You know, this housing crisis that we've been in for a few years now has really taken a toll on a lot of families. I know somebody you've worked with, somebody that you're related to, maybe even yourself. You might have gone through some sort of foreclosure, short sale, deed in lieu of foreclosure, or any other nonsense going on in the financial markets tied to housing. One of the things that is not talked about enough is the fact that a lot of people have to get rid of their homes right now and go into some sort of apartment-style living. And in that situation, many people can't bring their cat or dog, their friend, their companion, a member of their family. Imagine your dog, imagine your cat, dropped off at a shelter. Oh, it's a shelter. They'll be safe. No, the shelters just don't have the resources capable to take care of these animals, and thousands of them are put to death every single week. Please, if you have the opportunity, go become a foster parent at a shelter. Go to your local shelter, adopt a dog or cat. Trust me, a family out there is going to really appreciate the effort.
It's Friday, and you know what that means. It's time for the Unhappy Hour live sports radio show on thenewamericanmedia.com. Here is your host, Brian Engelman.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. Again, thank you so much for sticking around. Just knowing that a couple of people, a couple of friends has turned into a few hundred, a few thousand. Between all the different formats, tens of thousands. Clicks and views and likes and forwards and retweets and everything. It's really cool. It is really cool. You know, it's nice to know that people do care. People are fired up. You know, I think most of us just want to be left alone. You know, we don't want anyone telling us what to do. Why is that so hard? I mean, it seems like whether you vote for Democrat or Republican, you get the same solution. You get the same answer. Big government. Is that really the answer that we want? By the way, Existential Ben is reporting he has a bit of a tech issue, so he might not be able to join us again. That's fine. Go check him out. Existential. I believe it's existential.com with a 10. If you got something to say, now's the time to say it. That's it. Now's the time to speak. Here, you know what? Here, I'm going to say, ask us a question. I'm on Twitter. Ask us a question live. Right now, we are on live radio. Okay? Right now, we're on live radio. Send us a direct message on Twitter to join the show. And that has been tweeted, folks. Oh, Lord. So much stuff going on. What are we supposed to do? By the way, if you tuned in for sports today, sorry about that. Oh, by the way, let's see. Gas prices soar to new heights in Los Angeles. Looking at a picture of $5.29 a gallon. We saw it at I think $4.93. So you got that going on. Do you think intentionally increasing the cost of a gallon of gasoline is going to miraculously develop new technology? Because don't we want new technology anyway? I just... There's a lot of people that say it's intentional. One of those people being Mr. Barack Obama himself when he said, under my policy, energy prices will necessarily, not unnecessarily, under my policy, energy prices will necessarily skyrocket. Really? I mean, I swear, I heard nothing for 3 years leading up to the 2008 election. It seemed like I always heard about how high gas prices were. I think gas prices have doubled under this current president. Our debt has went from $9 trillion to $16 trillion in 3 years. He's doubled gas and he's added $7 trillion to a $9 trillion debt in 3 years. Oh, but the stock market's at 13,000. What does that even mean? Oh, the Dow is up. It's the best number since '08. What the hell does that mean? Oh, the economy's improving. It is? Okay, so how do we pay off this credit card, guys? I've never been a credit card guy. If we didn't have the loot to pay for it, we just wouldn't get it. My grandmother taught me that. Thank you, Grandma. And yes, there was some credit card debt that we sorted out because it was related to student loans and going and getting 3 degrees between the 3 of us, and we've paid all that off. Keep a rotating balance of 0. 0.0. Week to week. So if our economy is going so great, how are we paying off this debt? I heard a story that we're giving away islands in Alaska to the Russians. I still have to sort this out. I got to look into that story. We're giving away islands, oil-rich islands in Alaska, giving them away. Got to substantiate this. I need you guys. I need the Twitter audience. I need the Facebook audience. I need you guys to look into this. Bring it to me. The GMO issue. You guys know about this? The genetically modified organisms? Genetically mutated food? Frankenfoods? You know, California has the chance to vote in November to make it mandatory that you label all GMO foods so we can know what we're putting in our bodies. I'm a gardener, always have been. Put something in the ground, give it some water, throw some dirt on it. I do the worst Southern accent. Throw some dirt on it. I won't give you... I have a few different dialects, and they're just cartoonish and silly. Yeah, I grew up in Ohio. I always had a farm. I still do out here in California. I hope all of you are growing some of your own food. you have some sort of way to capture, collect, and treat and purify a water source. Have a couple cisterns or many cases of water for emergency. You have some backup food. You have a little bit of silver. They say gold, God, and guns. Get your protection ready. Get right with your version of spirituality as you see fit. Yeah, have something to barter with. I just feel very vulnerable right now as a nation. I feel everything seems very vulnerable to me. It seems like the dominoes have been set up, and I'm watching the finger come in, ready to tap that first one and set off a chain reaction. We went to the Conscious Life Expo a couple weeks ago. We put a few videos up. Talked to Laura Eisenhower. I believe it's the great-granddaughter of our President Eisenhower, the one who famously warned of the military-industrial complex. Ooh, click that video. Watch that one for a minute. We got an interview with Jordan Maxwell. Now, that's a man. That's a man I was not too familiar with his body of work. A little bit. I knew roughly. I saw him on a panel last year. I saw a couple videos. Surely not everything, but we had about a 20-minute sit-down with him. Interesting. We'll be posting that soon. David Wilcock. Man, we were at like a 2 or 3 hour lecture. That was a video that went nuts. We put it up on YouTube. It didn't go viral, but it went consistent. We were having, 100 views per day? Is that what that was? It was like 100 views per day. We topped out at like 12,000 or something. That was consistent for a long time. But there's a spiritual component to this. You know, I'm kidding around about this. This story that we're just a reality TV show for other beings to watch. Unless I'm not. Look, you know, that's the beauty of science fiction. I never used to really be into sci-fi. Not really a Star Trek guy, not really a Star Wars guy. Lord of the Rings I dug. But, you know, just ponder spirituality and what the purpose is, what we're supposed to be doing on this planet. You know, that gets a little... I would recommend a little bit of meditation, contemplation, prayer, however you choose to look inward for a minute. And that's what we interviewed William Henry, researcher and author William Henry. We have videos on the YouTube page. You know, and he talked about what he's trying to explain about consciousness and spirituality at the Conscious Life Expo, and he said it's a story of the caterpillar looking up at the butterfly saying, "You'll never get me up in one of those things." The caterpillar is the butterfly. Don't you know? Oh, don't you know? Caterpillar is the butterfly. What are we capable of? What are we capable of on this planet? If we can steer current events, if we can... Look, it's up to us. What are we willing to accept? What is okay? What is too much? What's fair? What's unfair? What is fairness anyway? You can't have a collective... You just can't do it. It's never worked. It always gets corrupted, and even the people that want to get by on their own are now left with no other options. You've seen so much mass killing with Chairman Mao, in the starvation, with Stalin, with Hitler, with Lenin. You look at all the dictators, from Gaddafi to Hussein to Ahmadinejad. Different positions, yeah, I know. But that's what America was supposed to be. A chance to start over. A chance to govern yourself, which was a novel concept in human history. People are usually put into positions of power put in positions of power to govern the people, sometimes with an iron fist and sometimes with bad intentions and selfish pride and ego. Not here in America. No. Where every man is equal. Yep. Every man is equal. Not woman. Every man, not woman. But then we fixed that. We set it right the first time in the documents, and it took a while with the suffrage movement to get the equal rights. Where every man is equal, and we get to govern ourselves, unless you are a slave. Okay? But guess what? That was remedied. The words were right in the beginning, and it took us a little bit, and we got to that. We've come a long way, people. Careful when we nitpick. We've come a long way. I've never lived in a world with separate, segregated drinking fountains, thank God. Or people as property. Thank God. Or tyranny from a church or a king. You know, most of my life I've been able to kind of do most of what I want to do as long as I'm not really bothering other people. You know, every human makes mistakes for sure. We all do. Nobody's perfect, and you don't have to be. But I think we do need to strive for something a little better. It's not, come on. It is not the job of government to babysit us cradle to grave. It's not. There's no accountability from our governing leaders. They all need to be thrown out. Was it 535 people in the House and the Senate? We could put 535 brand new average people drawn at random. And perhaps get a better result than we currently have. You know, that's one of Buddy Romer's big things is get the money out of politics. All right, it sounds good, but how do you do it? Well, let's not worry about how you do it for a second. Let's talk about what happens. What Bill Maher? Bill Maher just gave $1 million to a super PAC for President Obama. Corporations are people. It's an interesting conversation we can have at a later date. A couple lines of thought on that. But Buddy Romer, who we interviewed last week on the Agree to Disagree show, it's on youtube.com/thenewamericanmedia. He's saying get the money out of politics. And you wonder why these 535 people plus the president, I think those numbers are right. Tell me if I'm not. Tell me if I could improve upon those numbers. But if they've all been... If these elected leaders are serving their own interests, that's a fireable offense. And if you're subverting the Constitution in the process, tell me, what is treason, America? What is it? Giving away property and assets? You're the CEO of our country. You can't do that. Stealing from the citizens? You can't do that. What is treason? What's an impeachable offense? NDAA, just go and kidnap people indefinitely? Is this a secret? The Nazi SS? Like, what in the hell are we talking about? You know what? I'll tell you what we're talking about. I want to read this for you. Let me grab this from the other side of the room. This is from the Oath Keepers. I want to hit on this, and I'll go a couple minutes. I just want to tell you a little bit about these guys. Okay. I want to tell you about these guys. We are Oath Keepers. Will you honor your oath? I'm reading from the Oath Keepers. Explanation. It says, We swore an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We did not take an oath to obey unlawful, immoral, or unconstitutional orders from politicians. Great pressure is being put on our military and peace officers to violate the constitutionally protected rights of the American people for whom the Constitution was written. Not on our watch. We hope for a return to a constitutional republic free from fear and hatred. We hate only tyranny. We are oath-sworn Americans who want the Constitution returned to its legal and rightful place, intact as the ultimate law of the land. What we are not. We are not a militia. This is from the Oath Keepers. Look them up, the Oath Keepers. Oath Keepers. We are not a militia. We are not advocating or promoting the overthrow of any government, whether local, state, or national. We are not advocating or promoting violence toward any organization, group, or person. We are not advocating or promoting the removal of any person from his or her elected office. We are not advocating or promoting that anyone in the judicial branch be removed or replaced. We are not advocating or promoting any particular form of government other than the constitutional republic which the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution defined and instituted. We are not advocating or promoting the rewriting of the Constitution, nor are we asking for an amendment thereto. We are not advocating or promoting any act or acts of aggression against any organization or person for any reason, including but not limited to race, religion, national origin, political affiliation, gender, or sexual orientation. 10 unlawful orders we will not obey. We will not obey orders to disarm the American people. We will not obey orders to conduct warrantless searches of the American people. We will not obey orders to detain American people as unlawful enemy combatants or to subject them to military tribunal. We will not obey orders to impose martial law or a state of emergency on a state. We will not obey orders to invade and subjugate any state that asserts its sovereignty. We will not obey any order to blockade American cities, thus turning them into giant concentration camps. We will not obey any order to force American people into any form of detention camps under any pretext. We will not obey orders to assist or support the use of any foreign troops on U.S. soil against the American people to keep the peace or to maintain control. We will not obey any orders to confiscate the property of the American people, including food and other essential supplies. We will not obey any orders which infringe on the right of the people to free speech, to peaceably assemble, and to petition their government for a redress of grievances. Oathkeepers.org. Oathkeepers.org. I'm going to leave you with that. We'll post this. We'll put this up on YouTube. You guys can send it around. We love when you forward these things and retweet them and favorite them and email them and embed them. And please take this, use it, think. Challenge me. I don't have every answer, right? I get some of my facts a little skewered from time to time. I don't have a 20-person production crew spoon-feeding me all of my Cliff Notes and teleprompter speeches, all right? I'm a dude trying to learn as much as I can about myself, about what the purpose of life is on this planet, what experiences we're supposed to take away, how we're supposed to treat people, trying to learn the limitations of our government, trying to learn the best way forward, just trying to communicate with you guys every single week. I want to thank Ben Weinbroer for joining us today. And I want to thank you for listening. My name is Brian. Please join us at thenewamericanmedia.com. Thank you for listening to the Unhappy Hour and Agree to Disagree hybrid show that really just touched on some of the issues in sports because it didn't seem all that darn important to me today. Thank you for listening. We'll be back very soon. We appreciate each and every one of you. Tell a friend.
You were listening to the Unhappy Hour sports radio show on thenewamericanmedia.com.
Have you ever considered adopting a pet to be part of your family? Our animal companions can be just as close to us as our human companions. If you're considering adoption, please visit your local shelter and adopt a pet today. Shelter pets make the best pets.
Agree to disagree. Yeah, it's a radio show we have on thenewamericanmedia.com every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Join the show. What do we talk about? Politics, religion, and spirituality. Basically anything you're not supposed to talk about in a bar. You're not supposed to have these conversations inside of a bar, but we have them every single Friday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific on thenewamericanmedia.com. Join the show, offer your opinion, and let's agree to disagree, but let's have a good conversation.
Follow thenewamericanmedia.com on Twitter at American_media_.
Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. Last year I had this idea. I wanted to start a website of my own, not just something, a presence on Twitter, a presence on Facebook, and have a thing. I wanted a website. I wanted a home base for all of the ideas and things I'm interested in. I wanted live radio. I wanted to communicate with the globe. I was tired of being spoon-fed dogma by corporate interests and just, here, believe this, believe this. I said, no, I think there's something underneath the surface, but I didn't know how to do it. So I contacted Ted Distel of disteldesign.com. Ted walked us through the process of, okay, you want videos, you want to do quotes of the day, you want to have a spiritual section, you want to have a 1984 watch where government's intruding and private corporations are intruding into your privacy. Yeah, those are the things that I was interested in. Ted walked me through the process. We built thenewamericanmedia.com, and I encourage you to go online and take a look at our site. That's what he's capable of. Please, if you have an idea, go to disteldesign.com. That's DISTEL design.com. Hi, Brian from thenewamericanmedia.com. You know, this housing crisis that we've been in for a few years now has really taken a toll on a lot of families. I know somebody you've worked with, somebody that you're related to, maybe even yourself. You might have gone through some sort of foreclosure, short sale, deed in lieu of foreclosure, or any other nonsense going on in the financial markets tied to housing. One of the things that is not talked about enough is the fact that a lot of people have to get rid of their homes right now and go into some sort of apartment-style living. And in that situation, many people can't bring their cat or dog, their friend, their companion, a member of their family. Imagine your dog, imagine your cat, dropped off at a shelter. Oh, it's a shelter. They'll be safe. No, the shelters just don't have the resources capable to take care of these animals, and thousands of them are put to death every single week. Please, if you have the opportunity, go become a foster parent at a shelter. Go to your local shelter, adopt a dog or cat. Trust me, a family out there is going to really appreciate the effort.
It's Friday.